Good morning, KU. Unfortunately, the last one on Monday for this semester, but at least we've got a lot to talk about. As always, women's and men's basketball season's in full swing. Swimming, they were at AT&T Nationals. Volleyball making some noise, plus track has their first indoor meet of the season. It's going to be a good one, and it's going to be a good morning, KU. Stick around. Welcome back. Good morning, KU. Griffin Hughes here, and for the last time we bring on your cousin.
Yep.
We actually haven't been together on camera in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, we switched off. You had 2 weeks ago. I had last week. So together it's for last time.
Exactly, and the show's better when we're together anyway. So.
I think so too.
Let's start off with women's basketball, and they come off a big win over Creighton, pretty emphatically too. The way they beat the Blue Jays at home. Coming into St. John's, different team. They're a little bit better. St. John's picked to be #1 in the Big East, and early on Kansas struggled.
Yeah, a lot of the top performers like Lauren Aldridge and Kenny Manning-Allen didn't come out to play very well. Aldridge shot 4 from 11 the whole game, and she did end up scoring 13 points, which was double figure in scoring, which she's only not done once this year. And Manning-Allen had all of her points in the second half, so not a lot of offensive performances in this one.
And this really was, I guess, concerning for the women, but we kind of knew that this was going to happen coming into the season for a team that really lives off the three ball to have a day where they struggle like this.
Yeah, and then the shots want to go down for them, especially in the 3 points. And really, St. John's was undersized, so KU had the size advantage. But St. John's aggressively got inside, scored a lot of points, and they scored 81, which is the most points KU's given up all year, and 59 came from Grant and Hanford, who are the top 2 players on St. John's.
And that, I would say, is concerning if we didn't know that Lauren Aldridge and Shayla Cheadle are good defenders, especially on ball. Lauren Aldridge is probably the best on-ball defender on that Kansas team. So do you think this is kind of a one-off thing, or is this something that Kansas has to be worried about?
Well, it's a young team, and this is one of the better opponents they've played so far in the non-conference season. St. John's, if you really look at their ranking, they're really like 27th in the nation, so they're going to be like moving up into that top 25 when the polls come out. I think tomorrow is when the polls come out for women's. So a very good team, and we saw them play a good team in Creighton too, but St. John's definitely the better team. They've pulled off a lot of upsets this year. They've won against 2 ranked opponents so far.
Well, Creighton will make a postseason tournament, so that. So at least Kansas has that on their record. The better Creighton does, the better Kansas looks. But they're all building towards that Big 12 schedule where they could finish in the top 5, you would think.
I think so too, and early on when you're playing good teams, it only bodes well for the future.
Exactly. Let's move to men's basketball, and Kansas playing another team that plays a really tough non-conference schedule. It's Harvard. First off, Wayne Selden for 3. I'm sorry, it was tied, not anymore. Wayne Selden says none of that. Now, steal. Kansas going the other way. Pass up to Devontae Graham. I believe I can fly. It's Devontae Graham, man. Fans are fired up. There's 15,000 people who love it. The lead is big, but wait a minute. Second half, here comes Harvard. I see you. I see Devontae Graham. I'll raise you 1. Evan Cummins on the give and go. It's a 4-point game. Now it's a 5-point game. Sorry, 2-point game. Tommy McCarthy says, yeah, you can take that. Tommy Amaker, I assume he's happy. You can't really tell. But Tommy Amaker happy. Then Frank Mason. Yep. That's what Frank Mason does. Little guy making big changes. Kansas ends up escaping with a 6-point win. But, man, they really struggled. Does this say more about Harvard or Kansas?
Well, I've always been high on Harvard. I thought, besides going on the road to San Diego State, this would be one of the harder games that Kansas played. And, Kansas really had to rely on Harvard having a lot of turnovers. They had 19, and also Tommy McCarthy, one of their top performers, having a foul out late there in the second half. So they had to rely more on Harvard to struggle towards the end to pull off the win.
Yeah, I think this says a lot more about Kansas. And the free throws were awful, and I guess we've come to expect that out of a Bill Self-coached team, which I never understood, how you couldn't get your team into the gym to shoot free throws. But also the rebounding was just terrible. And Harvard with a Dolson one, and even Tommy McCarthy grabbed a couple. I mean, there's just no reason for Kansas to be out-rebounded by a team like Harvard, and they were. And they didn't get any second-chance opportunities. Defensively, Harvard grabbed the boards, and they were able to run in transition, and Tommy McCarthy does that really well. I think this says a lot about Kansas, and they're going to struggle because a Dulcin one is one thing, but coming into Big 12, you've got Rico Gathers and George Niang. That's something else. Those are top players in the country.
And they didn't really play their game either. They're a three-point shooting team, and in the second half they shot one. So that tells you something there too. And the freshmen, they have to come out to play too. You look at Carlton Bragg, he had 4, and Chuck Diallo had 2. So when you look at that, your freshmen have to come out on top as well. So just not all-around good performance by the Jayhawks.
Well, Diallo made that early jump shot from the elbow. Everyone went crazy, and he didn't make another one. So he's always going to be a liability on offense. You got to know that. Let's move to track and field. They started their winter season. It's indoor at Anschutz Pavilion. And overall, it was a successful day. Even though they didn't really face the top competition, they picked up 19 total wins.
Yeah, very impressive. And, it's kind of more of a preseason for the track team as, more of the events heat up after the break. But, it's very impressive. We had top performances. Grace Pickle, she jumped over the average size of a human being to win the high jump. 5'7". So very impressive performances. Ben Burstead, 3,000 meters.
Good morning, KU alum. We'll take credit for him.
Exactly. And, in both races in 3,000 meters, women and men led by a whole entire lap, lapped the last place team twice.
Yeah, the women in the distance medley relay, they were closer to lapping the last place team than they were to being passed by the second place team for basically the entire duration of the race. They really knocked it out. But what you got to understand is that, Friends University and Missouri State are not Oklahoma State and Texas. So what does this say about Kansas when they start to face that top competition?
Well, this is obviously a good start for them, 2019 events. But again, like we said, it's more of a preseason meet, so they're just trying to see how they'll fare later on down the line. So I think it definitely helps them, that they can have these impressive records, and they set a lot of meet records. Zainab Sani set in her 200-meter race, she set the meet record. So it builds up a lot of confidence, taking all these titles individually in this earlier meet.
Yeah, and we also didn't get to see the likes of Sydney Connolly do her long jump. That's really her specialty. She's super athletic, and I think when you talk about replacing a heptathlete like Lindsey Vollmer, Kansas is in pretty good hands because the women have some really, really talented athletes.
Yeah, definitely the field are their strongest events. They struggle a little bit in short distance, but long distance and field events, they're very strong. That's good to see because, they have to replace Michael Sigler and Lindsey Vollmer both.
Right, and the short distance, even in the 4x400 meter relay, the Kansas B team, I mean, that doesn't really say much here early in the season, but that team led by Trey Daniels, they came out the winners in that race pretty emphatically. And they looked better than I thought they would coming in. So that bodes pretty well for the short distance. But again, you're talking about Friends University and schools like this, like Kansas Wesleyan. And when you're talking about Texas and Oklahoma State, that's a whole different level that you're going to have to be facing.
Different competition, different level.
But this also is the first meet of the season. So bright future?
I think it's very bright.
I think so too, even replacing Stigler and Vollmer. Let's talk volleyball. You talk about a team that's pretty bright right now, making the NCAA regionals. They're going to play Stanford in San Diego.
They'll play Loyola Marymount first.
Right. Yes. Or USC as well.
They'll go to San Diego. So sunny skies while we're here in Kansas, cold.
Big day for Kansas volleyball, and it was a big week. Playing Missouri, it was a renewal of the border war, which you don't get to see very often, and Kansas swept Missouri, even though you talk about the Tigers probably could have hosted their own first couple rounds.
And you don't get to say that too often that KU beats Mizzou because the last couple of times Mizzou has beat us in the NCAA tournament. But it was a good win for KU. Late in that third set they were down 24-20. They had set point against them and they came all the way back and ended up winning four consecutive set points that they saved and ended up winning that set 27-25.
It was a big night for Kansas volleyball, an emphatic win over Missouri. Now they're going to San Diego with a chance to get a program best as far as finishes in the volleyball tournament. Is this the best you've seen this team play?
I think it's the best we've seen, and they're all gonna, and the amazing thing is they'll be back next year and it'll be the same exact team.
Exactly.
So they could be even better.
You subtract. I mean, all you got to do is subtract Tiana Dockery, who yes has made a big impact, but you talk about your best players. The Yenise Havili, of course, LeBron James,
Kelsey Payne,
as we know, Kelsey Payne. All of your biggest contributors. So let's round it all off with swimming. And Yulia Kachakarova here in the AT&T Winter Nationals lowers her own national record for the 200 meters. But Kansas swimming didn't fare the way they'd wanted to in the winter nines.
Yeah, you know, the 5 girls that were there, they were looking to qualify times well enough to make the Olympic teams in their respective countries, and you know, 2 of them fell short. And Chelsea Miller and Libby Walker, they both made the U.S. team, and Kutch Krover from her Uzbekistanian team, she got to make that team as well. So, you know, they were able to, you know, do what they wanted to do and get on their national teams.
Well, Miller and Kutch Krover, you kind of knew they were at least going to post times that were good enough, but then good for Libby Walker, the freshman coming in, highly recruited, and she makes her own national team. She is going to be pretty good.
As a freshman, pretty impressive to make the U.S. team in your first year of swimming.
Very impressive.
On the collegiate level.
Well, on this last Monday version of Good Morning KU, we've got Curtis Marsh coming up. Always a fantastic interview, so you're going to want to look forward to that. So stick around with us on Good Morning KU.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas, a great place to be you.
Welcome back. We're here with Curtis Marsh of KU Info, one of our regulars.
Hi, Chloe.
Yeah, tell us what's going on with the Birds Union and why they're doing that.
Sure.
What they're doing.
First of all, thanks for having me. Last show in the Kansas Union, tear to my eye. But you know, I think that it's not overstating it to say that it's hard to find a time in the university's 150-year history that we've had more change and activity and construction on campus. We just got to view one of our residence halls coming down. That was pretty dramatic, and now we're looking at saying goodbye to the Birds Union, kind of the younger sibling to this building. It's all in an effort to further the master plan for the university, and you know, there's a lot of things that finally are being strategically considered with respect to our growing campus. You know, we're awfully proud of Jayhawk Boulevard and our 100-year-old buildings, and yet 100 years ago we had maybe 1,000 students, not 24,000 or more. And so it's time to maybe ease the burden on Jayhawk Boulevard and look at some ways that we can spread the academic activity of the university.
Definitely. So I lived in McCollum last year. They just tore it down. I'm so sad. But what are they going to replace that with?
So you probably know that before tearing down McCollum, they had to figure out how to house the students that this year wouldn't get to live there. You were a part of the last generation.
I have
of
my
McCollum.
T-shirt and everything that says
good. Wear it with pride.
Yeah.
We created 2 new residence halls. They're right in the middle of that area on Daisy Hill. And McCollum, well, in order to build the new halls, we had to say goodbye to a fair amount of parking, which made parking a challenge for the students this year. But McCollum, in its place, will be a parking area so that students at Daisy Hill get back the parking that they lost in order to build Self Hall and Oswald Hall. Important, every time we get the chance, we have to let people know it's not the Bill Self Residence Hall. 2 different families. You won't see Coach there very often. But I think it's also important to mention that it's another part of this master plan. When you were at McCollum, you had a row of residence halls on one side of the street and a row of residence halls on the other. It was almost like a gauntlet. It was not officially, but kind of informally, a disincentive to hang out with people from other halls, because first of all, you got to make sure you're not getting hit when crossing the street. But second of all, there really wasn't an area that said, all right, everybody come in and hang out and be a part of this first year experience. Well, now McCollum's gone. We have 2 new residence halls that really kind of made like an oval and a really cool quad area in between, where students from all of the residence halls are encouraged to hang out when the weather is nice and you know, study.
Yeah, I'm excited for how it's going to look. Well, thank you so much for being on our last
Absolutely.
Monday morning show, but we'll be back with the news.
Welcome back. I'm Maggie Stout.
And I'm Allie Fullerton. This is your final Monday Good Morning News update. 74 years ago today, the Imperial Japanese Navy attacked Pearl Harbor and brought the United States into World War II. 21 ships were sunk and nearly 2,500 American personnel lost their lives that day. Approximately 42,000 members of the military were based on Oahu the morning that Japan attacked. Today, there are just a handful of survivors still alive, and only 2 men are expected to attend the ceremony at Patrick Air Force Base.
Former President Jimmy Carter announced yesterday that his most recent brain scan shows no sign of cancer. The 91-year-old announced 4 months ago that melanoma had spread from his liver to his brain. The cancer treatment never stopped President Carter from teaching his Sunday school in Georgia, though, which is where he first announced the good news.
The University of Missouri Faculty Council has voted and rescinded an honorary degree given to Bill Cosby in 1999. Cosby has been accused of sexually assaulting multiple women and is in various stages of legalities. According to the Kansas City Star, at least 12 other colleges and universities have revoked honorary degrees given to Cosby.
KU will host a forum tomorrow afternoon to discuss concealed weapons on campus. Recent changes in Kansas law will allow people to carry concealed weapons on campus as early as the summer of 2017. The forum will be held in room 120 at Budick Hall and will begin at 2:30 p.m.
Both the Chiefs and Broncos won divisional rivalry games yesterday. Kansas City beat the Raiders 34-20 and Denver held off the Chargers 17-3. That keeps the Broncos 3 full games ahead of the Chiefs in the AFC West with 4 games to play.
The College Football Playoff Selection Committee met yesterday to decide the 4 football teams to be in the playoffs on New Year's Eve. The lucky 4 are Clemson, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Michigan State. The Tigers will play the Sooners, and the Spartans will take on the Crimson Tide. The winners will play for the NCAA Championship on January 11th.
And for the first time in history, the United States rugby team defeated New Zealand. The Americans stunned the All Blacks with a 14-12 victory to advance to the quarterfinals for the Dubai World Sevens tournament. The USA will play defending champions South Africa in the next round.
And that will wrap it up for today's news update. Please keep watching. After the break, Hunter will be here with the weather.
Welcome back to Good Morning KU. Griffin Hughes, and we're going to bring in Hunter Cohey for the weather. Hunter, it looks pretty nice out there. What are we dealing with right now?
Hey, Griffin. Right now it's about 44 degrees. Later on today, it should be getting up to about 59. It feels like 42, but the longer you stand in the sun, it gets a little bit warmer. Excuse me.
So what's it going to be like for the rest of the week? I mean, this is the last week of classes. Are we going to get some good weather to celebrate the good times, or is it going to get a little bit worse?
Actually, it is supposed to be a pretty warm week for December. It's about 60 tomorrow, 61 on Tuesday. Only gets better, clear up through Friday. For the weekend, though, it's supposed to get probably back to 54 and then 47 on Sunday. So it'll get a little bit colder on the weekend, but throughout the week, it's supposed to be very warm.
Well, I guess that's good news. Now, for finals week, students are going home at various times, but for people like me who have to stay until Friday, of course, what's the weather going to be like for us unlucky souls?
It's solid in the 40s. It's next week for finals week. It's supposed to be about 45, 46, up to 47 on Thursday. It's not as cold as I feel like December should be, but it's a little chilly.
Well, I guess, that's one thing. I go home to Colorado and it's probably going to be snowing. At least I hope. I do love me some snow. Where are you going to be for this winter break?
I'll actually be here in Lawrence, so I guess I got my weather now, so.
Oh, well, I hope you get some snow too, if you like snow. If not, then I hope it's good weather. Well, Hunter, thank you very much for doing the weather, and thank you all for watching the final Monday Good Morning KU ever from the Kansas Union. Again, next semester we're going to be in Anschutz, and if you love KU sports, then I have something that you're going to want to watch next semester. We've got a new show, new from the new media crossroads, called The Playmakers. All of your KU sports discussed, broken down, anything you want from a show about sports. That's what the Playmakers gives you. That's coming next semester, so you're going to want to watch that. From the new Media Crossroads and Anschutz, thank you so much for joining us here, and thank you for everything at the Kansas Union. We'll see you next semester from Anschutz.